My name is John Cappello, and I am a psychic medium. I've been doing this work for quite a long time, but I didn't expect to do this kind of work in my life. I have a bachelor's in economics and a master's in business administration, so I was expecting to be a corporate executive, and didn't quite turn out that way. I found out that I had abilities that I could use to help people as far as sensing spirits after the death of my father. That was about 20 years ago. And since then I've practiced and tried to develop my skills over that period of time. Now also I want to tell you before we get started that I do have a website. It's just johncappello.com that you're welcome to go to. I also have a blog talk radio program which is on Wednesdays at 12 noon. It's an internet radio program, and if you don't listen to it live, you can download it to hear the various topics that I talk about. And then also I do meetups. I don't know if you're familiar with meetups.com, but I have the Dallas Visionaries meetup group, and I also have one in Houston. So I travel around the state of Texas doing my work, and I do galleries and private readings. And what we try to do is we try to bring in spirit, and we try to give accurate information about crossed over loved ones. We've been pretty successful doing that. I recently had trips to Houston and to Shreveport, so I'm back from both of those trips. So I want to also invite you during the talk to feel free to ask me questions. You're welcome to do so. But what I wanted to do today, as we start talking about mediumship and paranormal, the paranormal, I wanted to start out with some definitions, because I believe that if we create a foundation, then we can build upon that. And a lot of times people ask me, what's the difference between a psychic and a medium? Do any of you have any ideas, or you may have, but my definition of psychic is to be able to pick up information and events around a particular person, a client. That information is solely around that particular person. My definition of mediumship is a broad definition, but it's a simple definition. And mediumship is simply the ability to sense an entity outside your presence. Now, a lot of times this includes energy from people that are still here, because their energy is so very strong around you. And like I say, it's a broad definition. But when you sense the energy of an entity that is not your energy, that is something very special. And it's something that we all experience. At least I have known, most of the people I have come up against or talked to have experienced or sensed a presence beyond their physical presence. Now, a lot of times mediumship can involve our physical senses, because our physical senses, sometimes we may see a spirit, or we may hear a voice, or we just may know that another presence is in the room. And that is a form of mediumship. That also crosses over to the paranormal, because the paranormal and mediumship do have a lot of similarities. But we are talking about a specific area of the paranormal today. The paranormal, the definition for me, is anything that science really can't explain, okay? And that's a lot of things. And a lot of times science can't explain the existence of spirits being able to communicate with us. Sometimes spirits may let their presence be known, but they don't let us know what they want or what they're trying to tell us. And a lot of times when we do a paranormal investigation or a ghost hunt, we pick up that energy of those that have crossed over, but they may not be showing us a physical form, or they may not be showing us some other type of visual that we can pick up. They just show us their energy. And so mediumship and the paranormal a lot of times cross over. And so I hope that that's something that you can give me some leeway there. But spirits are everywhere. Spirits are in this room today, and we're going to be demonstrating that. But one of the main similarities between paranormal and mediumship, or one thing that is that each of us try to do in our particular way, is to get verification or validation. Because if you don't have verification or you don't have validation, the skeptics are going to say, you can't prove it. You can't prove it. So if you can't prove it, then it must not be true. You know, there's, I don't know if you heard about the gentleman that said he was attacked by a mountain lion the other day?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a lot of people now are saying it was a hoax on his part. I don't know. But he said that he was attacked by a mountain lion and was saved by a bear. Okay. Seems like a pretty extraordinary story. But this gentleman has had some other extraordinary experiences in his life. He survived a plane crash, he says, and he survived some other life-threatening events. And so that if those things are true, it lends a lot of credibility to what he has to say. So I would assume that none of you are here today because you haven't had a paranormal or experience with spirit. But we are going to try to show you some of that today with mediumship. And so, like I say, if you have a question or anything you'd like to ask, then please do. But one of the things that you have to understand also is that there are a lot of times that a medium will pick up energy that is not alive or not there, which is a spirit. That energy is called residual energy, okay? And residual energy is something which is very, very common. Residual energy is is an imprint, is an imprinted energy. And we all leave imprints. We all leave imprinted energy on our watches, on our rings, on our furniture, and in rooms that we're in. And we often pick up imprinted energy when we walk into a room or we are walking into a situation that is unexpected. So I bet you many of you have, or all of you have walked into a room and said, this room doesn't feel right to me, okay? And if you evaluate that feeling, you may feel that there was an argument in there, or there was some type of traumatic event. And so a lot of times when you are doing like a paranormal or a ghost hunt, you may go into a house and you may notice that there has been a trauma there. And that trauma, you can even walk up to the spot where a trauma may have occurred. I went to a restaurant once that had a lot of spirits there, but it also had residual energy. And I walked to the spot where there was a murder. And all of a sudden I started getting flashes and I started getting all different types of sensations that were coming to me. Well, come to find out, it was a young woman on her wedding day who was stabbed in the neck by a boyfriend, okay? The jilted boyfriend. The father of this young lady did not want her to marry this boyfriend because he didn't have any money, okay? So the father wanted this young lady to marry someone who had means, who had money. And so he demanded she break up with the person that she loved and marry someone for material reasons. Well, the boyfriend said, if I can't have her, no one can have her. And so he decided that he would kill her. Well, that energy was very strong. The residual energy was there, but in addition to that, you could feel the presence of spirits that were in the particular building. And the way that you can sense them is either a cold feeling or a hot feeling, or you might just feel, a little bit uneasy around a particular spirit. And so that's all a form of mediumship. Now, sometimes that mediumship or those spirits can be detected by some type of machinery or some type of gauge. And that's a good thing to be able to do that. But you are the best gauge in my view, because we have our own abilities that we can tap into. Now, where do our abilities come from? Our abilities come from the energy of our souls. Okay, our soul's energy can be used and is used every day as a tool for us to pick up information. And in my upcoming book that I will be having out soon, I talk a lot about that. The name of the book, by the way, is Open the Mind, Exercise the Soul. And that's exactly what we do, is we exercise the energy of our soul to pick up information. And we have layers of our soul. And the best test to determine if you have psychic ability is to walk up to someone and get in their personal space. Has anyone ever done that to you? Walk up to you and you just felt, wait a minute, you're getting too close. That's the energy of your soul that is saying to you, this is an unwanted energy that's coming to you. So when you're invited, however, when someone invites you to come and hug you or shake your hand, that energy is released, and you allow that person to come closer to you. But what we do is we use the energy of our soul in our personal space to expand, and when we expand it and take in another person's energy, then we can read them. And the idea is to be able to understand that energy, to understand it and be able to communicate exactly what is being said to us, or what is the type of information that's being given to us. And there's a test to do those things as well. So when you're working with your psychic abilities and you're noticing a spirit around you and you don't quite understand what that spirit is trying to say to you, you first of all turn within and you say to myself, what am I feeling about this particular incident? And you may say, this makes me uncomfortable, or this makes me comfortable. And after you've done that and tried to discover what you are feeling about that particular situation, then you move to another area. What am I seeing about that incident? What am I seeing here? Am I seeing anything physically? Or am I seeing something in my mind's eye? Is there a flash? Did I see something out of the corner of my eye? Because all of those things are about mediumship, and that's all about developing your psychic ability. And then move forward and say, what am I hearing about this particular situation? Is something telling me something? Am I hearing a voice outside of my inner voice? Am I hearing something that is unusual? Am I hearing a tapping? Am I hearing a voice? Is this a man's voice? Is this a woman's voice? Is this a child's voice, a little girl or a little boy? Go through these exercises and then finally say to yourself, what do I just know about this situation? Now, many times we also activate other psychic abilities that we have to sense a spirit or to sense the paranormal. We can sense a taste that comes in our mouth, or we can sense a smell that comes around us. Now, how many times have you noticed that there was no sensation in the room, and then all of a sudden, maybe a grandmother's old powder, you smelled that grandmother's powder, or you smelled someone's pipe tobacco that in your home. This is all part of you being able to tap into it's called clairfragrance or clairgustus. These are senses that we don't normally pick up on, but they're very powerful senses. They're senses that we use on a regular basis. Now, we use our physical senses and our psychic senses interchangeably. We use them all day long. And this information hits us all at once. So when you are experiencing being around a spirit, you're getting a lot of sensations at one time. It takes some practice. It takes some recognition. It takes some division of energies within you to be able to determine what type of energy is coming to you. Now, I do want to tell you a little bit about possibly doing a ghost hunt. Now, I'm sure many of you have been on ghost hunts. And a lot of times ghost hunts ask a medium to join them, to get some additional information. Well, that's all well and good, and I've been on a lot of ghost hunts. But the thing about it is a medium's approach is a little bit different than someone who may have gauges and may have equipment that is going to help them sense spirit. Now, my recommendation, it's only my recommendation, everyone else has their own methodology that they use on ghost hunts, but my recommendation is to have two approaches when you do a ghost hunt. If you're a paranormal investigator and you are going to investigate a particular building or a particular site, do some research and find out who owned the building, find out what types of events that were there that you can verify. Find out as much information as you possibly can prior to your investigation, prior to the day you go to try to find out what you are trying to prove. Because that is part of that validation. That's all part of the credibility that you want to be able to demonstrate to whoever your client is or for your own gratification. Because all of those things are very important. A medium has a different way of doing an investigation. A medium needs to meditate beforehand. A medium needs to remotely pick up what is already in that location. Because that medium should be able to write down certain things that you will later be able to verify. So the medium should be able to pick up whether there was a grandmother there or an older lady there or some other type of person. They hopefully will be able to pick up if there's some type of trauma or there's some other type of event that has left an imprint there or currently resides there. That medium should go ahead and write all of these things down, keep it aside, give it to the head investigator prior to the investigation, and then when the medium goes into the property or the site, they can either pick up additional information or they can get information which will verify what they wrote down. The best example of that is recently I went on a ghost hunt, and the ghost hunt was at a courthouse in downtown Dallas. And I didn't know anything about the particular building except that I'd seen it there for years because I'm a native of this area. And it has recently become a museum. And because it was a museum, they're trying to get some additional business. But they had been noticing that some strange things were starting to happen at this particular place. So I decided that I would go and I would write down a few things. And I said, you know, I don't want to just pick up anything that is just normal, you know. I don't want to pick up anything that, oh, this person used to drive a car, or this person, you know, went to McDonald's. You know, after all, they've served 7 billion, you know. So you're certainly going to pick up people that have been to those particular events or those particular, had those particular activities. But in my particular case, or my case, what I wanted to do was, I wanted to write down some things that were the unusual. I wanted to write down some things that wouldn't normally be expected. And so one of the things I wrote down was there was a gentleman with a very, very long beard that used to go there. And this person was rather cantankerous, and this person was someone that, you know, if he liked you, he was your best friend, but if he didn't like you, he let you know it as well. Then I wrote down that there was a lady administrator that was still in that particular building, and that she wanted to make her presence known, and she didn't necessarily like all the people that were there. So I picked up that. I picked up something about children. Then I picked up about animals. I picked up that sometimes this place didn't smell very good because way back when, before they had cars and before they had streets really put in, that there were a lot of animals that would come up to the building, and every once in a while some of them would sneak into the building and there would be chaos. So I wrote these things down and gave it to the head investigator. And in addition to that, I picked up some gunshots. I picked up a gunshot. And of course, we all know what happened in downtown Dallas many years ago, which was a very, very unfortunate event. But all of those things came by meditating prior to the investigation. And whenever I do an investigation or whenever I read for anyone, I don't want to know anything about them. I don't want to know anything about the person or the particular event that I'm supposed to investigate, because that's certainly the information that's going to come. So we went and started the investigation, and I immediately wanted to see if I could find this elderly gentleman with the long beard. And sure enough, there was a picture of him. He was a gentleman that lived during and after the Civil War, and he was a Unionist. And so he wasn't as popular in this area because of the Confederacy, but he was someone that people respected, and and the write-up on him was that he was very cantankerous. And so it was an interesting validation of the work. And then I found out that there were problems in the building with slamming doors. And there was one door in particular that was being slammed, and actually the person that was working in that office was locked out of the office. And sure enough, there was a lady that used to have that office that was an administrator, and she didn't want anyone in her office. And I went there, and she said, I earned this office. This was my office. It took me a long time to get it, so I wanted to have it. And she didn't want anyone else to be in there. Now, there were some other difficult energies that were there, residual energies that I picked up, because this particular museum had some difficult chapters of the city of Dallas's history. Before I knew it, I was picking up a lot of conflicted energy, a lot of energy that didn't feel good. And I walked around the corner, and there was a cape of a KKK person, and you could feel hate, and that's not a good feeling. It feels awful, and so I realized that it was hate not only because of the uniform I saw, but because I had felt that energy once before. When I was a youngster, I had visited Germany, and I had gone to Dachau, Germany. And Dachau, of course, was a concentration camp that had been known for putting live people in the crematoriums and the gas chambers, and it was just an awful place to be. But I felt the same energy there. And that brings me to another point, because when you are working with your abilities or you're trying to sense spirit, you have to know yourself. You have to know what is going on within you. You have to have an inventory of feelings that you can recognize what's going on. For instance, you know what it's like to be around a funeral. You know what it's like to be around a birthday party. You know what it's like to be around a wedding. And hopefully those are all positive, the wedding and the birthday party are positive feelings, but the feelings about a funeral might be sad, or there may be some grief around those feelings. But these are things that you will know about yourself. Now, it's interesting because as you develop, for instance, an inventory of feelings, you will also have an inventory of images, an inventory of phrases in your mind, and things that you just know. And you learn to work with the mechanism of your psychic abilities to pick up these different types of energies. So, any questions so far? No? Yes?
What about, some people say that, some ghosts actually have consciousness, but then others are just residual, like, energy, that is left over, like, somebody sees somebody walking through a room, and a ghost, and they'll just see the same thing over and over again.
That could be residual energy. That may be something they did on a repetitive basis when they were there, and they left that particular residual energy in that particular spot. But usually when you pick up an entity that is trying to communicate, they're doing something active. You will hear that voice, or you will notice some type of activity around them. And you have to understand too that when we cross over, we simply are going to another dimension. And in that other dimension, we retain most of our personality, and we retain our freedom of choice. And so if they want to communicate, if you want to communicate or you want to try to communicate, it's just a matter of you being able to gather enough energy to where you can cross over that dimension and let those of us in this dimension be able to sense you. Yes?
So we're talking, if you say that people can cross over to another dimension, then do you believe, or is it, I don't know, do you think that maybe once you get in heaven, you stay there? Or that there really is no person in heaven, or heaven is a dimension, or, because how can you go to heaven and come back, or, I mean, do you go, do you stay, do you leave?
Could you repeat the questions?
Okay. The question is, do we stay or leave heaven? Is that basically what you're saying? Okay. Well, the thing about heaven is that heaven is what you make it from a medium's point of view. So if you are a good person here, if you're a person that is a kind person here, that's the energy that I'm going to pick up. If you had a good relationship, if I'm giving a reading, and if you had a good relationship with someone that's crossed over, usually there's a feeling of love, or there's a feeling of compatibility or peace between the two of you. If your relationship was sometimes cantankerous or difficult, that energy will come as well. Now, you bring me to a good point, because usually the people that are, if there's someone in a house that has not left or wants to reside there, you're going to pick up pretty quickly what type of person they were because of the way that you feel. If you feel comfortable with them, that's a feeling of peace. And if you don't feel comfortable with them, then you may have to go a little bit, delve into a little bit more as to why they are there. Generally, they are there because of a trauma. You know, a lot of times when you are doing a ghost hunt, or you're in a place where there has been a person that may have committed a murder, or a person who was a victim of a rape, or victim of a murder, or in some other way was traumatized, that a lot of times their energy will be there. Sometimes we pick up the energy of a child that was traumatized or injured in a particular home. And you can pick up that energy usually on a residual basis first, but if they're there, then they may try to let you know what exactly happened to them, just as I did with the lady that had her neck slit on her wedding day, you see. A lot of times if it's a suicide, they will let you know if they committed a suicide, or they'll give you this feeling of sadness, or they'll give you some other sense of what they had done. If you want to call that a hell, or you want to call that a time of reflection and having a difficult existence in another dimension, then you can. Because what I have learned as a medium is that there's no cut and dry heaven or hell. It all involves how you were in this particular life. And if you were an abusive person in this life, then you will reflect that energy to me as a medium, you see. So, yes, sir.
I've noticed that, you know, we have spirits everywhere.
Yes.
And I keep coming to the point of, why are they here? Why haven't they gone on to what I would consider to be heaven? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I come from a fairly religious background. I'm a Methodist, so you know, and we're just fairly religious.
Absolutely.
And
very religious.
yeah, I mean, you know, I like to drink a beer once in a while. You know, it's like I can't be a Baptist, so I quit that.
I agree.
But in doing the investigations and whatnot, I don't. I'm the tech guy. I don't go in and ask questions. I view it on the screen and tell them when something's come out behind them. But, you know, I like to drink a beer once in a while. I can't be a Baptist, so I quit that. But in doing the investigations and whatnot, I don't. I'm the tech guy. I don't go in and ask questions. I view it on the screen and tell them when something's come out behind them. But, you know, I like to drink a beer once in a while. I can't be a Baptist, so I quit that. But I mean, we did one on a 10-year-old girl who choked to death on a corny dog in this house. And she's still there. She just plays with things, knocks stuff off the counter, paper and mail, and plays with spoons and the cups and stuff like that. Why is that child's spirit still here? That's not the only one I've run into, but that was the most blatant. And I mean, in all my background, they're innocent. I mean, they're innocent. They go on to heaven, but yet their spirit is still here for some reason. Are they waiting for the rapture? You know, for Christ to come back to earth to settle up all the scores? I battle between my religion and what I'm finding in the paranormal.
Well, right, and that struggle is important.